this, and that's not part of your journey. So I'm really big on that. So when I find myself, I will mute you. And again, it's not anything personal. It's just I have to do it. I'll mute you, and then I will kind of just take a step back, and I look over everything that I've done thus far, and I congratulate myself for the point that I'm at. Because also, as a business owner, I know that a lot of people aren't here. We follow people on Instagram that are like-minded, right?
This episode is sponsored by Using the Power of Your Voice, eGuide, your guide to launching your podcast in 30 days. Are you feeling a calling from God to start a podcast, but uncertain about where to begin or what you'll need? Creating a podcast can be fulfilling and an enjoyable experience. Whether you're interested in sharing your expertise on a specific subject, conducting engaging interviews, or educating and entertaining your listeners, podcasting can help establish strong connections and foster a sense of community. Using the Power of Your Voice is a guide to start your podcast in just 30 days. And it's perfect for anybody who is clear that God told them to start a podcast. Whether you're nervous about recording or unsure where to start, this guide will provide you with the valuable insights and actionable steps to help you record and launch in 30 days. In this guide, you'll learn to identify your why, find your topic, learn where to host your podcast, and what equipment you'll need to start. If you are ready to be obedient in your calling and start your own podcast in 30 days, this guide is a must have. Download your copy of Using the Power of Your Voice today by going to www.slingselfdoubt.com/podcast. I cannot wait for you to start using the power of your voice. And thank you for your support. Hey Slayers, welcome back to the Slaying Self-Doubt YouTube channel. Here is where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to walk into their God-given purpose. How do we do that, you ask? Well, we create safe and brave spaces just like this for Black women to show up authentically as themselves. So join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I am Coach Felicia, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Hey Slayers, welcome back to another episode of Slaying Self-Doubt Podcast. I am here with Casey Renae from Snipes Design Agency. Hey Casey, how are you?
Hey, girl, hey.
Hey
I'm
girl,
good.
hey. So y'all always know that there's always some type of story. Generally, I be stalking people on social media. That'd be how I know people. If I don't like know them. But most of the time it's just via social media, right? And so I actually started following you when you were doing the Babies and Bellinis podcast. And then it just kind of transitioned into that, right? And so I think I learned what you did after that. And then I'm like,
probably learned a lot more about me than you thought.
Right. It was a lot. I like now, that was a highlight of a few years when y'all was doing that thing. Just go ahead. It's all right. It's all right though. But it was it definitely, like, once I saw what you did, I was like, oh man, this is like really dope. Like, on top of hearing like, your regular life story and then figuring out what you do and just watching you just like grow that agency and grow what you're doing into what it is today is like super, super dope. And so I was just like, okay, I'd be telling myself I can't be stalking people forever. I'm at least gonna have to reach out and just see what they say. And so you said yes. So here we are. And so can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
So I am Casey Snipes, but everybody calls me Casey Renae. I tell that story all over a million times, but they call me Casey Renae because my aunt, she's no longer with us, but when I used to go to her house, I used to get in a lot of trouble, and she was from Jersey. So she would, like, in her Jersey accent, she'd be like, Casey Renae. And I'd be like, okay, hold on. Like, I knew I was in trouble. So I decided, like, okay, if I'm going to be in the design world, I want to disrupt it and I want to cause trouble in it with my design. So I was just like, let me just go to Casey Renae, because I couldn't think of what I wanted to be called. And yeah, it's just kind of stuck, and everybody calls me Casey Renae. Like, they think that's like my whole first.
Like that. I thought I actually did think that
Oh
was
no,
your
see, it's just Casey.
first and middle name. Like,
So
I was
yes.
like, some people got two first names. And how? Hey, listen, you never know until you ask, right? And then when you get the story, then people tell you
it's first and middle name. But so that's how I got started being called Casey Renae. I started designing. It's been years. Like I was designing when I was young. My mom, she was a kindergarten teacher. She runs a daycare now. And at the time, like when I was in like high school and stuff, I used to go and do her bulletin boards, and decorate those for everybody. And then what happens was her coworkers was like, "Oh, can she do mine too?" And I started like, okay. So I have an eye to like design on a grid because
Oh,
essentially,
nice.
a bulletin board is a rectangle and you have to divide into all what they need. I was like, okay, well, I can design on a grid. So then I was like, okay, well, let me take this talent a little bit further. I decided to go to A&T for graphic communications. And then I was like, let me keep going just a little bit more because I didn't feel like I got everything I needed from A&T for design wise. I got a great social life though, but not design wise. So then I went to Savannah College of Art and Design where I got my master's at. So that's kind of how I got started. And then I have owned my own business now. I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher teaching art and technology. And then when I had my first son, I was like, yeah, we ain't gonna do this no more. I mean, I was already like doing it on the side and making money for it, but it was like, it wasn't my full time. It was like my side hustle.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we're done. Like, I don't want to go back into the school system. So I was like, I'm gone. And it was so funny because the principal, shady, can I curse on here?
Yeah, sure.
His shady ass. I'm sorry, I curse. You should know that about me.
That's why I said, listen, I always say, show up as your whole authentic self, okay?
So his shady ass at the end of the school year, after I put my, I'm not coming back, he was like, okay. And then to Miss Snipes, she's gonna go start a business. Y'all go ahead and congratulate her. I was like, damn. That's supposed to
Wow.
uplift Black women. He's a Black man too. I was like, damn.
See,
but then I had some teachers come out in the hallway when we were done. It was like, no, I'm so proud of you. Like, good job. But like, I was just like
people be hating. Especially if they know that they're losing, which is still shouldn't be the case, right? Like you should always want to see people grow and do the things that they love. But lots of people are selfish, right? Because that means if you gone, I gotta find somebody else. Now I gotta hire. Now he's more focused on himself. But then look at you now, okay? Look at you now. See, I'm glad I left. Then you don't need to worry about it.
I hate it.
Yes, exactly. I was telling somebody, I don't know what the conversation we were having, and it was about somebody like stepping on your dreams or something like that. And I was like, when I first got into healthcare, I was working for the DC government, and I was just like, this is not this. I no, cubicles is not my life. I can't do this. Y'all got too many rules. Like it's too much. The supervisor was walking by every day like this, like micromanaging. It just was made my back itch. And so when I was like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to she'll be back. And I was like, oh, okay then. Like, and she didn't. So there's that. I was just like, oh, on purpose, I'm gonna make sure I don't ever want to see you again because that was just rude.
Yeah. I'm not employable. I'm it's just it is what
it's not possible anymore. Yeah, it's just it ends up being that way, right? Once you make your own rules and you can do your own thing, it's just I'll be like, I can't work for everybody. It's not gonna work for me. Okay, so as most people when they're on here and they talk about what they're doing and how they kind of got started, it's always like by happenstance, but you already had a gift that you actually like you knew and then you poured into it, fostered it to make sure that you were able to remain creative, right? Because a lot of times people don't see that there's a future in depending on what they're doing. They're like, I'm gonna take the easy route, right? Like, and I'm gonna just go ahead and do the safe thing, right? Because whatever that other thing is usually requires more of you, more what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think. Yeah, like it requires more. It's just not standard, right? And so then you have to kind of step outside your, and a lot of times that brings some uncomfortability, some insecurities. And so even though you started and you knew kind of what you were doing and what you wanted to do, how has self-doubt showed up in your journey?
So real quick, I always tell people, if I didn't do this, I would be an astronaut. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Like in the space. Okay.
Yeah, no, seriously. I
Okay.
would have been the astronaut. I can tell you everything about the moon, the stars. I had telescopes, everything. Okay. So it was
I
between
just
those.
want you to know that those are like on the spectrum of that is like,
No.
is it not? Okay, no,
No,
all right.
so what I made a magazine when I was like whatever 1997 was for me. I had this magazine and that's how I also kind of like knew the design, kept the design. So I made, it was called Dateline Space. It's like right back there too. It's so funny. But it's a magazine and it would like talk about the Hubble space and like everything. And
Yeah.
I designed it. I made business cards, like I was the editor of the magazine
Girl, you was
and
out here
everything.
already doing
So
the stuff.
yeah, and I was like in middle school. I think I was like in eighth grade, seventh or eighth grade. So one of the two, but I was passionate about both. But um, as far as your question about doubt, yeah, I deal with, I guess you won't consider imposter syndrome, kind of doubt. I dealt with that heavy. I still to this day like deal with that. I think what happens for me though is I also, so God gave me three gifts and I'm very vocal about that. I can educate. All my aunts, uncle, they're all teachers. My brother's a teacher. I was a teacher. My mom was a teacher. Everybody's a teacher. My
Okay.
dad, he's a substitute teacher right now for retirement. We're teachers. I have the gift of gab because I have this thing where you can put me back on the charger, but I'm one of the people like we're out. I don't ever like anybody feel uncomfortable. I talk to anybody. I'm a very approachable person. And I can design. So those are my three gifts. So I try to stay in the zone and operate in those.
Yeah.
So whenever I feel doubt about a gift. Now, if it's something that like body image and things like that, I'm pretty good at because that's life. I mean, this is all just life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel like things like that, I'm not a fitness person. That's not my lane. That's not my
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
Doing this stuff, when I work out now, it's to balance me keeping my mind together for my gifts.
Yeah.
You know, granted, I always make a joke like I just want to be in a crop top because I mean I do want to be in a
Right. I
crop
mean,
top,
who does it?
but that's not the real reason. Like I made myself go walk around DC this morning, and it was raining this morning, but I did that because it's like, Casey, I lack consistency also. So I was like, Casey, this is the hard part. This is what you said you're going to do. You need to do it. So that's why I'm doing it. But I do imposter syndrome a lot. If you look, I know a lot of people be offended if they got a hold of my phone and how many people are muted because I just genuinely, I got to a space at one time where people's wins I started comparing people's wins to like, dang, I just know I'm further than them. And I promise I know it's wrong. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
say I am a flesh. I say that a lot. I am just a flesh.
Yeah.
But I offset, then I try to work through that by just like, I'm a revisitor of what I've done. So meaning that people are always so geared to, okay, well, what's next? I did this, so what's next?
Yeah.
I'm the type of person, I'll go back on my Pinterest board and look like 5 years ago, and I'm like, damn, Casey, you tight, you be like, that's what I have to do. I always revisit what got me here. And that for me gets me out of my funk because I have to, I'm words of affirmation. That's my love language. So I have to affirm myself. So I'm really big on like, I'll go back and I'll be like, dang, that's cool. I like that. I could have did this. All right. Oh yeah, Casey, remember when you was in this? And I really talk to myself because people get so worried about what's next that they just forget that. And people also don't celebrate small things. Girl. And I think if you celebrate these things, then it'll bring more reflection and awareness to where you are and where you're trying to go. And it makes a sense of clarity, kind of. And then it'll tell you like, well, why are you even comparing yourself to this person, Casey? Because we just went back and saw you did this, and that's not part of your journey. So I'm really big on that. So when I find myself, I will mute you. And again, it's not anything personal. It's just, I have to do it. I'll mute you, and then I will kind of just take a step back and I look over everything that I've done thus far, and I congratulate myself for the point that I'm at. Because also as a business owner, I know that a lot of people aren't here. We follow people on
Yep.
Instagram that
Yep.
are like-minded, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
world is made up of how many people? And I only follow about 5,000. So, and maybe the 5,000, let's say 3,000 do what I do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that may seem like a big thing, but it's not.
Right.
3,000 people out of a billion people,
Yes.
nothing.
Yeah.
So I have to remember how lucky I am to be doing this and living on purpose, because a lot of people don't have that. But you
Absolutely.
get so stuck and think that those 3,000 people are the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like on this competitive field, and it's like, no, that's not how this works. So I really try to affirm myself when I'm like really doubtful in a lot of situations.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for sharing about the imposter syndrome, right? Because I think oftentimes people don't they and some of it comes with just like self-awareness, right? I think people don't know how to put a word on what it is that they feel. And if people really were honest with it, most people deal with imposter syndrome. They always feel like that they're not doing enough. They always feel like they're a fraud. They always feel like that what they're bringing to that is the reason why people can't receive compliments. That's the reason why when somebody say something nice to you, you're like, no, all I did was blah blah blah, because you think it's not enough. You think it has
Yep.
to look a certain type of way. So when you are, and I tell my clients all the time that struggle with that, I'll be like, all you need to say is thank you and I received that, right?
Yep.
Because the minute you go ahead and you disqualify yourself because of your imposter syndrome and your insecurity, you're saying no, that wasn't really me. When I was in my previous job, my supervisor would say stuff and I'm like, all I did was Google, all I did, and she had stopped doing that. Like, if I'm giving you a compliment, even if all you did was Google, you had to
Yep.
know to go Google. You didn't copy and paste and just rewrite the whole thing. Like, you wasn't plagiarizing. You still had to do whatever. And either way, whatever you wrote made an impact and it came from you. Doesn't matter how I went about it. You know how many people out here Googling? YouTube
And
University.
chat
That's
GTPing it up.
listen. And even with that, I be like, y'all don't even realize the amount of plagiarism that's happening out here with these AIs. Like, we all saying the same thing? Can't be. Not at all.
Hey, I'm happy to say it. I write in pictures, so
right.
me, I ain't got to worry about this stuff too much. Yeah, no, I challenge myself three things, because so the first thing is the received, because I'm the type of person, like, this is men, period, like
Yeah.
business and relationships, whatever. If you complimented me, and it's crazy because I'm words of affirmation, so it's like I want you to, but I don't want you to feel like it's still weird. It's
It
still
is
weird.
weird.
It's so many variables, okay? But
I
I
know
would be like,
exactly what you're saying. Like, you want to hear it, but I'm like, I don't want to hear like that. Like, it's this, and then there's
yeah,
also this little sense of control. Like, it got to be when I want it, how I want it, the way it needs to be said. We weird. That's what it is. That's
yeah.
what
So
it boils down to.
I say received a lot. Also, I'll try to get out of. I've read Woman Involved, and I also went to the tour for Pastor Sarah Jakes, and
Yes,
I'm
that's my
really
girl.
she has a part in her book where she says, "Stop saying I don't know when you know."
Yeah,
Stop
yeah.
out. So
Hmm.
I try my best to stop saying that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I do know, I just have a problem articulated, like, just just
Give
give
me
me
a
a
minute.
second.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm really big on that. So it was one more thing I forgot, because I started laughing. But and then the money thing. So like a thing as to like adults, when people be like, not even money, but like time, anything where somebody be like, no, I got it. I've
Hmm.
learned to stop saying, no, I got it. Like trying to
Yeah,
trump somebody.
yeah,
I've learned to stop that,
yeah,
because like even with this money, if I'm out to lunch with someone and they be like, I got it. Okay. Yeah, you got it. Like, cause that's really hard for me too. Cause
yeah,
I've
yeah.
also learned that a lot of women who are in business positions like this, we are very alpha female for the most part.
Hmm.
And we don't do well with that. Now that's a whole nother topic. But
Yeah,
even in business and boardrooms, like we really have that, we're conditioned where it's like, no, I'll get it, because it's like
yeah.
flexing a muscle. And
Hmm.
I'm learning to stop that as well, because I don't always want to have it, you
Yeah.
know?
Come
I
on,
don't.
come on, come on. That
So
that speaks on so many levels. On top of the fact that we block other people's blessings when they are supposed to do something, right? That could
yep,
be some a prompting that they supposed to do, but we want to step in it, and it's still that control thing, right?
yep,
When really it's the illusion of control. You the only thing you control is you. So by saying I received that, taking a pause, and even when you said earlier about muting people, child, the number of people I got on mute too, don't even worry about it. Okay, the number of group chats, text,
good. I
all
feel seen. Thank you.
notifications, all of that stuff. But you know what it is? It's a boundary, right?
Yeah.
Because I was just telling somebody else yesterday, like the lack of emotional intelligence from people to know that everybody does not have the capacity to receive your heaviness is it's getting better, but people don't ask. They just dump on you and they'll be like,
Hmm.
oh, I feel so much better. And I'll be like, but did you ask me what I had going on? Did you ask me what I needed? And I didn't realize that I didn't realize how important it was until a friend reached out to me and they said they needed to talk all the different things, and they ended with, if you have the capacity to listen to me right now, if not, let me know. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was just like, actually, I don't have the capacity right now,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you asking me. But we have to put those boundaries around ourselves because you don't know what people are going through. You
They
don't
will
know what it
deplete you
is.
and walk away like,
Child.
oh, and then you be like,
Yes. Now you wearing
that's
somebody else bricks out here. Like, now why do I feel so heavy? I was just fine an hour ago, and now this other person feels free because they just gave you all of their stuff, and it's not even yours. Like,
yep,
why do I have your stuff? I don't. This is not mine. Listen, I don't carry my kids' book bags. I ain't carrying yours neither. Okay,
yeah,
it's this. It's not happening. And then one of the other things that you said about operating in your gifts, right? And knowing what they are. I think a lot of people, I think people know. I'm gonna say that I really do. I do think people know what their gifts are to a certain extent. I think people are just afraid of operating in it because it's a level of expectation, like an
yep,
internal expectation for them to perform if they say they know, right? And that goes back to saying I don't know, right? Because if you do know, then you have some internal expectation of like, okay, well, if I know, then I have to perform.
yep,
I mean, technically you don't, but then also you get to choose how you show up, right? You get to choose when you want to use your gift. You get to choose whether or not you are going to operate in that, but you can't keep walking around being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know this. I don't know that. You know, we all got it. It was already, child, y'all hear me enough times on here. Your life was already written, whether you're a believer or not. There is purpose on your life. So that means you have a gift. You have a God-given gift that he is giving you, and he's waiting for you to use it because we
hmm,
all need each other. We need each other in order to do what it is that we're all supposed to do within this earth.
and you'll
And
start
so
for you till you figure that piece out
let me
too.
say
You'll be
something.
like,
Let me
all
tell you.
right,
And but then also though, I also believe that even in that, the comparison part where we are looking at people and we're watching, people do certain things, I think sometimes it is a indicator of the fact that God will give somebody else something so close to what you're supposed to be doing that when
hmm,
you see them in action and you're looking and you're like, there's been so many times I've seen stuff that
fire
I've
in
been
front of
like,
your eyes.
okay, so basically this is very close to slaying self-doubt. And if it get any closer, it's mine. And I don't want nobody else to have it. So I need to move. I
Yeah,
need to go. And so I think comparison's fine. You just can't stay there. You can't stay in there where you just like all day swiping. I got the same thing. I have even on all of my devices had the same thing. I turn stuff off,
yeah, the timer. I have
Instagram.
a timer on Instagram.
Listen, Instagram will let me know.
2 hours,
You
they
got
like shut it down.
right. Do you want more time? I'll be like, it always happens at an inopportune time. But I recognize that my alert comes later in the day now, right? That joint used
Mine
to
does
pop up at
too.
like 10:30. And I'll be like, man, how was I on here for two
Yeah,
hours
I
and I
usually
just
get to
woke
like
up?
around happy hour time, and I'm like, oh, all right, I did good today. Go me.
Right. Yes, same. I'll be like, oh, okay, we made it to 5 o'clock. Good job. Good job.
Hmm.
But yeah, the other thing that you said is running your receipts, right? looking at your track record, running God's track record over your life to be able to encourage you in those moments of doubt and imposter syndrome, because you've already done it. If we know that we have everything that we need. And if you've been doing this for a while, somebody said it the other day to me, like, God, you will have breadcrumbs in your life where you'll see, I already been operating like this. I already been doing it, because it's who you are. It's not what you do. Because even when you were a teacher, I can guarantee you had the best classroom in the building.
Everybody love me. You know, my kids are lit.
Listen, so that meant that all the gifts that you said that you had of being an educator, having a gift of gab, being a designer, and having that creativity, it shows up in everything that you do. So what you had to do, though, is choose where you was going to channel it, right? Where you going to give it to somebody else, or where you're going to do it for yourself. And sometimes that is the difference. So I was like, I got a checklist in my head of the stuff that you said. Okay, yeah, that was the last thing. So one of my questions that I did want to ask you is that, like, practical tips for people who hear this episode and they're like, you know what, I am struggling from imposter syndrome. What's some practical tips that you can give for somebody in this moment to be like, do this to help you get out of that space?
So it was so funny because, like, one day when it was a bad day in business. It was bad. It was like the devil put his Crocs on, was like, I ain't gonna waste no time. We're gonna go sport mode or get right up to Casey's house. Like, I don't know. It was a bad
not sport mode.
And I don't know. It was one of them days that put you to tears.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Ugh. So then when I was done, I was praying and I was done, and I was like, all right. I went in the mirror and I was just like, just talking to myself. And I'm just like, tears in my eyes, but I'm just talking. I'm like, you got this, blah, blah, blah. And I put it on an IG post and I said, y'all, talk to yourself. Like, talk to yourself. It's like, it's so funny how when something goes on, we always talk to somebody else. And I was really big on that. Like, where I was like, I was always talking to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And it got to a point where it's like, nobody knows your heart's desires besides you and God. Like, no one knows.
Yeah.
So kind of talk to yourself. And it's so funny because my friend was like, oh, you mean like Issa Rae in the bathroom? And I was like, well, shit, you know.
Yeah, same thing. She definitely, listen.
If you want to do it comically, you know, that's fine. But
wrap it up, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, and I think she was on to something, because I came out the bathroom feeling hella good.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that it's those moments where some people journal. I only take notes for sermons. I don't really journal. I draw pictures for a living. Again,
No words. Listen.
Hieroglyphics. So I talk to myself.
Yeah.
And I think that works. Also, like, you kind of have to step away. So I always tell people, like, if I feel like something, like, I'm not creative, let's just say I'm not creative and I just cannot pull it together, and I even go outside for a walk and I still can't pull it together, then what I do is I don't press it. Like, I don't touch it. You know, I will literally immerse myself in things. Like, I'll go to a museum or I'll look on Pinterest and, like, look up random words just to kind of see what's going on, like something photography, or like shoe photography, like something random.
Yeah.
Just inspired. So I take myself out of working mode, because a lot of things that I notice happen when people are doubtful what they do. And I don't know why we do this. We could be immersed in doubt. We can be immersed in, like, our thoughts, and we then keep trying to work instead of clearing our mind. Like, so you're already trying to finish something that would take you 15 minutes. It's taking you now like an hour to finish because you can't think straight. So it's like, let's just get up. I had a client one time. They needed something. They needed a poster or something I was working on. And it was a corporate client. I was like, yo, I left my house keys. Just follow me. I promise.
Okay.
So I left my house keys. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have my house keys. I'm locked out the house. Like, I was locked out. And I have a garage that's turned into a bedroom, but the window was always broke. It's not broke no more. No, don't get no excited. But it was at the time it was always broke. So I was like, I'm just gonna open it. I'm gonna shimmy my ass in, and I'm gonna go to the computer, and I'm gonna get it to him. None of that happened. I could not get the window. No, I got the window open, but then we have the bolt door that was locked from the garage. I couldn't even get in, and all this kept happening, and I felt so bad. Right. So then I finally called it. And I'm like, I can't get it to you. I can't get it to you. And then they're like, oh, it's okay. We'll just get something else to do it. Else to do it. Like, we figured it out. So I say that to say, if you have to remove yourself from something, everybody will be okay.
Yeah.
You need to be okay. They will everything will get figured out.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's what happens. We get immersed in our feelings that we need to process, but then stack on it with like, oh, because I'm running this business, I have to make sure my client service is A1, blah, blah, blah. So let me keep focusing on this.
Yep.
Knowing I still have all this going on, but I didn't get to process it. No, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. And then, because also your clients need you to be who you fully are.
Yep.
Not in still thinking about somebody else's reel that got, 80,000 views and yours only got 80. No, and your mind is still wandering on that. They need you here.
Yep.
So get up, just stop, because if you don't, they'll go to the next, and you'll still be half broken. So just take a moment, just hey, and then go from there. So I just say that this things like doubt and stuff, it's a continuous action. Doesn't be like, oh, I'm cured of doubt.
Right. No.
It
don't work like that.
So talking to yourself, just try different regimens, talking to yourself. I go to the library, I do audiobooks, I do things like that. But everybody's different, but I just say pay it attention. I'm like, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Like, we are not our mothers and grandmothers and all that stuff. We have to break.
Yeah, you have the information to. I said that 2023 is my year of doing, right? Because I heard an author I was on YouTube or something, and he was like, you hear the saying, when you know better, you do better, but we don't. And specifically within the African American community, it's like, we don't do. And so if you really want different for your children, you want your children to have a different life than you do, if you want them not to be having to reparent themselves, right? Because we all out here reparented ourselves and having to go to therapy.
Paying a therapy bill.
Not and not to go to therapy so that you have some accountability, and so that just like you have a doctor and all, but that you have to, in order to function, like, then we have to do, and that requires us to do something different. And so one of the things that when you said about the mirror thing, right, like, that is a big deal, because the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, is your voice anyway. Right. Yeah. And so in order for you need to rewrite that story, you need to rewrite that movie. And so in order for you to retrain your brain to not say the negative things, you have to speak life into you. You have to speak life into your situation. You can talk to other people, but then that's still somebody else's voice, right? That's somebody else. Sometimes you do need somebody else to hype you up, but 95.8% of the time it's just you and you, right? Like, it's you in the car, you in the shower, you in your thoughts, because the self-doubt it's all inside of you. And just like you said, like, it's an action. That's what the slang is, right? I was like, it took me a very long time, probably like 2 years. I was like doing an episode and was like, oh, slang, like we're actually doing this, like, every day, every time you show up, every time you get a new client, every time you go to a new job, every time you meet, like, whatever it is that you have to do, you're going to have to slay that thing over and over again, because it's going to continue to come up, because those are the things that I always say, that enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and to cause confusion. Doubt is confusion. And if he can get you to talk yourself out of it, his job is done. He don't have to do nothing else. But guess what? You're gonna be in that wheel, hamster wheel, doubting yourself for days. And all he had to say was, You sure you think you deserve that? You sure that that's supposed to be your job? You want to write a book? You want to
Yep.
start a podcast? You want to apply to this job? And now you're listing all the things that you can't do when whole time you're equipped to do it all. So,
Baby, I
y'all.
be in the shower. I went from my thoughts will take me from a millionaire to dead broke. I'm homeless. I just be I'm like, how do I get there? I'm just trying to wash my ass.
Listen,
I don't
in 60 seconds flat, like you will be, like you said, from a millionaire to broke. Okay, living underneath a bridge. Like that is
I
exactly
said, damn, I have to get here. I'm just trying to wash. I don't
this is it be, but that's how that's it, but you, like you said, you have to know how you operate so that you know how to defend yourself against that so you don't get caught up. So what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
um I've learned that I was an extrovert. Like I am an extrovert, but I have stipulations on being an extrovert now
Mm-hmm.
because I think that people think that because you're an extrovert, like I don't like people to feel uncomfortable. However, I am not like a party trick, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like there were moments where in business, icebreakers, networking, friendships, everything where I kind of felt like I couldn't tell if it was more so let's invite Casey because she's Casey, or
Mm.
let's invite Casey because we know that it'll get us to a common goal of everybody talking and be this vibe that
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that sounds some people that might not be humble. I don't know, but that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think extroverts can probably relate. Like when you're always on it, then a lot of people feel like they can kind of be off.
Yep. Yep.
So I learned that me being an extrovert, it's like a superhero. I'm only now saving I'm only saving people who are valuable of my time
Yeah. Yeah.
and events and things that I'm passionate about that I can take something from.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not a party trick.
Yeah.
So I and I also feel like being an extrovert in business is also a gift and a curse because you know that like pick my brain stuff. Like
Yes.
I love to share what I know. I love to like I always tell people my DMs are open because they are. Because
Mm-hmm.
however, there gets those points where it's like I don't want you to be like, damn, I just know I can go to Casey. I still got kids. I still got a roof. You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
there has to be ways. So I'm trying to figure that out from that standpoint. I've
Mm-hmm.
learned from a like a communication, like personality standpoint, what to do with me being an extrovert.
Yeah.
Because there's something in all of it. There's something in being an introvert. There's something being an extrovert. There's something being an ambivert. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a beauty in all of it.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to find my way of balancing that piece, and I think that will actually because what a lot of people don't do, and this is why it's good to talk to yourself, is some people could listen and be like, what the hell does her being an extrovert have to do with doubt? But sometimes people are just loud because they're overcompensating.
Mm-hmm. Ain't that a
So
word?
there's things that I
Mm-hmm.
have when I assess my personality and being an extrovert, it has gotten me very far,
Mm-hmm.
but has also made me look like sometimes people talk a lot and they're not saying shit.
Yeah.
So I'm also like, if you could see back there, I have a million books. I love books because when I open my mouth, you're going to hear something from me because now that's my responsibility because
Yeah.
if I'm going to have a gift of gab, what is that
Yeah,
going to
what does
look
that?
like
Yeah,
too?
right. You can just be talking and, like you said, talking and saying nothing versus but talking and educating are two different things, right? Talking and giving wisdom or giving advice or just sharing life experiences or testimonies or whatever have you. It has to have, sometimes it has to have a purpose behind it. But I know exactly what you were saying about that extrovert not wanting to be a party trick. It's almost, so for those who are understanding that, it's almost being the strong friend, right? It's the same thing. Like you are the person that everybody feels like they can just come to, and if you were to complain or if you were to say something, it would be like, oh, but you can handle it. Oh, but you are, it's the And it's not really you for the most part, is other people's perception of you. But when you realize that that is other people's perception of you, it is your job to change that. It's your job to put those barriers in place to be able to be like, my phone is on do not disturb at 4:30. Cause I don't want to talk to nobody else after this. I've already given 100% of myself, right? Like when I do these podcasts and this month has been crazy, but podcasts and lives, I show up 100 and listen, 100%, right? And afterwards, bruh, I'd be like, don't nobody say nothing to me. Don't say anything to me. And I'm an ambivert, so I can be up and then I need my time. And my husband used to be like, "Oh, why you just seem so tired?" And I'd be like, because if you have to bring 100% of yourself to maintain a conversation, to maintain an energy, to maintain a vibe, to create space, to facilitate, that is draining. And most people who do not have to do that because they're comfortable being on the sides, you can just say whatever you want to say. But when people expect for your whole self to show up in a space, it's too much. And so, child, no, I can't come. I'm not gonna be there. I always say my cousins and my sisters call me the queen of no. I don't say no to everything, but I will. Let me see how I'm going to feel. Let me think about it. I will contemplate it before I say yes. I'm not saying yes off the break, because if it don't serve me, I have to deal with me after that. I have to be the one that, and like you said, if I give you all of this, then I have nothing else for myself. I have nothing else for my family. I have nothing else for my clients. Like, so you have to be able to manage that so that you are not empty, right? I heard somebody say that like your cup is for you, the salsa is for everybody else. So if your cup is not full, you don't got nothing else to give
at all.
You don't have nothing. So you have to figure out a way to refill your cup personally so that people can get your overflow. But if you don't have no overflow, baby, we empty. It is on E. Okay. we got absolutely nothing. So I want to talk about what it is that you do. I know we talked about graphic designing, and you mentioned, you draw, so hieroglyphics, you ain't using no letters, okay? She not writing no words. So what is it that you do, and if somebody wanted to work with you, what could they expect from you?
So I am a brand designer. Sorry, I'm a brand designer. I am the owner and the creative director for the Snipes Design Agency. We just pivoted. So we currently work with beauty, health, and wellness brands, small businesses, and corporate. And we kind of just like to say that we work under intentional design to help clients leave their beauty mark on the industry. So we have been very lucky in the clients that we've had. We do a lot of brand identity, packaging, and then we also offer creative direction, where we kind of say, hey, you don't know what you want your brand to go, but this is like, talk to us, tell us your mission, tell us your goals, tell us everything that you wrote in the middle of the night when you were just up thinking about your business.
Yeah.
And then we kind of make a bigger picture for what it looks like as far as like social media, as far as brand identity, even down to like sometimes advertisements or ad space for certain platforms. So that's what Snipes Design Agency in a nutshell pretty much does. And I love it.
Yeah. So I love the fact that is there, so let me, because I told you I've been stalking you, so I know it's just transitioned a few times. Okay. So what made you say beauty and wellness? Like, why was that the industry that you wanted to make your mark in?
So I ended up first, I didn't want to niche down at first because I was scared I was gonna get bored. But what ended up happening was a lot of my clients started being the beauty and wellness. And then I think what ended up really happening was, why don't you start getting in your 30s and your mid 30s, and then you're like running close to 40. The things you care about kind of shift. And we're also the buying power, right? So right now I'm the buying power for my parents, and I am the buying power for my kids.
Yeah. Yep.
So I hold a lot of weight. So as a consumer, I am the audience for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And And I realized that, you know, in my journey of health, in my journey of like self-care and things like that, you have to be cognizant of what you're putting in your body, what you're looking at, things like that. So some things in the beauty industry and health industry can feel really mundane, where it's like real clinical. It's just really dry. Like one of my clients is a healthcare, they're one of my corporate clients, and everything is just like, it's so clinical and boring.
All the terminology, all of
But
the
everything that they're saying is important. You need HIV testing, you need COVID shot. Like there's very important things. And I'm just like, I'm the buying power, because you want me to tell my parents about this, but you also want me to bring my kids in and you want me to come in.
Yeah.
So when I started to kind of assess that and noticing that I was playing that role, I was like, okay, I care about this. You know, restaurants are cool, but a lot of my time has been doctor's appointments, in beauty care, make sure my parents have this, blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of found myself immersed more in the culture of beauty and health and wellness, what was going on. And I was just like, that needs to be rebranded. Like they could do this, they could do that. And I just kind of was like, yeah, that's a wrap. Let's just focus on this. You know, let me
That's
just
dope though.
focus.
No, but that's dope, especially because, like you said, when you get, and so you stopped at 30, so I'm gonna go ahead and add when you get into your 40s, that all of that stuff becomes so much more important. I promise you, when I was like in my teens, I used to make fun of my mother all the time. Her and my aunt would have these little packets of vitamins, right? And we would just joke around like, "You're taking your vitamins." She'd be like, "Girl, you just wait." Bro, when I tell you I got about 9 vitamins I take a day,
I took a little bag to Denver. He was like, what is that? I said, these are my vitamins. And we finished eating, and he was like, oh, I'm congested. I said, hold on. I got papaya with chlorophyll. Here, go, take these.
I promise you, I'm always like, oh, look, this helps with this. This will change it. And I was
some
like,
dandelion root
hey,
on
listen,
it.
you got some moringa, you got your turmeric, you out here. My kids, I was like, do it have root in it? Listen, okay, because when you get older, like you said, that buying power, you're paying attention to the thing. I didn't care about none of that stuff when I was in my 20s. Like, why? What difference did it make to me? But now it's like, no, these are the things that matter. My health and my wellness matters. And like you said, when you're in that space of like, okay, y'all are getting old, but I need y'all to try to stick around. And so I need to be able to tell, you can't be out here doing everything. And then y'all can't make the same mistakes that we did. So you ain't gonna be eating all this other stuff. We're gonna be eating more vegetables, all that stuff. So when you're paying attention to those things, it makes total sense that you got to be like, now why I'm gonna eat this instead of this? Like, what's the, you start to care. And branding matters, right? Like when you see certain things and people, what catches people's eye and what things sometimes, we know advertisers a lot of times it's just like whatever gets repeated over and over again. But sometimes I can look at something and be like, and specifically for me in that area, because my background is in healthcare, I'd be like, no, let me read the box. Let me see what else. Let me look up their bio. Let me not. I'd be like, before I go anywhere, I have to find a doctor for something. But the amount of research that I need to do, because I'm very like strategic about who is going to be a part of my wellness care, it's taking me like 2 months because I can't find it. And I just be like, I need to just go.
Because people don't think about it. It sucks because health, especially with health and wellness, beauty, they're gonna always that's kind of unwritten rule. They're gonna push it. But with healthcare, they're just kind of like, I know you need us, so why?
It's forever, right?
You're gonna but it's
always
just
need
like,
something.
yes, we need you, but
it don't have to be boring.
it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And I'm thankful for that. The clients that I do have, they kind of let me, push the envelope. They let me put a little orange. They let me put some color.
Right.
And it's even just that, even though it sounds little, you would notice an orange situation over gray, silver. Like. So I'm working with brands who definitely let me help them do that, with the understanding that you need to focus on who is the person who's telling people about you. Not you can't brand to my parents anymore, because my parents are they're not driving there no more. They're not doing the things to do that. I am doing it for them.
So you have to change your audience so that How do I get that person here? And then it's longevity, especially in healthcare, because generally, if you do well with my parents, then
Yep.
I trust you to with me, and then I'm going to refer you down and out. Right? It's going to go
Yeah.
in that order. So no, hey, that is dope. So from a previous healthcare, well, thank you for rebranding because it is dry and it's very boring
Very
and
dry.
medicinal. Okay, and that's the reason why people don't be coming. They be like, "Ain't nothing fun happening here.
Yep.
We just saving lives. That's all we doing. That's all we doing is
Boring.
Casey Renae, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people connect with you? How can they find you? If they just want to get some inspiration, they want to hear you talk about your story, or if somebody wants to work with you, where can they find you?
So I am Casey Renae on Instagram, and you can also do at Snipes Design Agency. And the website for that is www.snipesdesignagency.com. And yeah, that's about it. Once you're on Instagram and you click the link, all my other links to like my YouTubes and TikToks and everything else. But everything is I am Casey Renae across the board.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being honest and open and authentic. That's why listen, I always say I am grateful for what I get to do because the fact that I recognize that my gift is creating a safe space for people to be able to share. And so even though it always amazes me that people come and tell me their business, I'm always just like, thank you so much because
You're welcome.
it's inspiration for all of us, the people that need to hear it. And I think it's also that running that track record again, when you say it out loud and you're able to, as we're having this conversation, there's some, people don't recognize, but there's some boosting that happens in there. Because when we get off this, people like, dang, I am that girl. I am her. She is
You
me.
are. I am she.
I am she, and she is me. Okay. So thank you again so much. I really do appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. All right, y'all. Until next time. See ya. As always, y'all, thank you for rocking with me. Again, if you enjoyed this podcast and you find it valuable, you enjoy this channel and you find it valuable, please consider donating by buying me a coffee. Your support will help me to create new content, get an official podcast studio, and ultimately reach more people. That's what we need. We need more people on this movement. Okay. If you're not already signed up to the newsletter, go to my website, www.slayingselfdoubt.com, and sign up for the Slayer Nation newsletter. That's where you'll get updates, where you'll get what's going on. You'll get the news first. You don't have to wait until I announce it or hear. Okay. And lastly, second to last, please make sure that you share this with at least 10 people. We are trying to reach 100,000 downloads this year, and every subscription, every share counts. So we need it. We need you to send it out to your peoples so they can help us hit our goal this year. Lastly, if you are not already following me on Instagram, you need to go on over there and follow me at Slaying Self Doubt. Until the next episode, see ya.